Hello, hello. It's Nadine here, and I'm here with this week's episode of Life, Health, and the Universe. And I'm joined by this week's guest, Fiona Redding. Welcome, Fiona.
Thank you, Nadine.
Thank you for joining me. Now, as is the tradition on Life, Health, and the Universe, I start my conversations by introducing my guest and saying a little bit about what I think I know about you based on basically some social media and a little bit of stalking.
Yeah.
So here goes, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You can add all of the bits that you need to. I'm kind of gonna try and leave a little bit of mystery in there so that we can delve into some bits and pieces later on in our conversation. But for now, Fiona Redding, I think you're a mum of 2 babes, but there might be 3. I'm not sure about that. Though you weren't giving anything away with that part of yourself. You're a coach, mentor, and a keynote speaker, with the topic being mindset. You had a life-changing experience around 10 years ago. You've got a business called The Happiness Hunter, and you're writing a book. That's all I've got.
Nadine, I'll give you 100% for that. Well done. I've got 2 kids,
Two
but
kids.
I've got my ex is actually remarried, and they've got 2 little girls. And
Ah,
now and again I'll see them, but I don't share heaps about my kids on
no.
social media because they don't like it anymore. They actually don't like me sharing their stuff. So
Fair enough. So they must be of an age then, if they don't.
12 and 14. But
Yeah,
it's
okay.
probably a year or so ago they started going to stop sharing stuff. And I'm like, that's fine. We don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah,
So yeah,
cool.
that's why, not because I don't want to, but because they have requested it. So it's really
Yeah,
interesting.
that's fair enough. Fair enough. So like all the photos I saw were like of little people, and I've got little people as well, like a 7 and 8-year-old. So I just assumed that you must have kids around the same age as me, but no, they're a bit older.
A little bit older. Yeah. So don't really share about them
Yeah,
online.
fair enough. Fair enough. So tell us a little bit more. Do you have any other bits and pieces to add? As I said, you've got a business called The Happiness Hunter, I think.
Correct.
And you're a coach and mentor, and you're writing a book. Is there anything else you wanted to add? I know I mentioned that life-changing experience.
I have actually finished writing the book, and it is actually
Very
my
cool.
second book. So I did do a first book, which was The Happiness Hunter's Guide to Meditation, which was like my practice book for this book. But that book was 2018, and then it took me until 2020 to actually start my book. Nearly 3 years later, I have finished that book. And it's actually I've recorded the audio, and it's all the files are being uploaded to Audible as we speak, or
How cool.
Yeah. And the print copy of it is just in the final stages of design, but it's finished. Like I continue. We've wrapped that project up, where I think now the work begins, which is the marketing
Selling
of
the
it.
book. Did you sell the meditation book?
Yeah, so I had so I sold that, but I actually had a bit of a towards the end of last year, I went through a bit of a real it was quite an extraordinary experience actually, because I'd kind of come through this 10 years of this really massive transformation. And then I sort of got to this point and I was like, I still don't feel like I've arrived or I've succeeded, or, and I think my identity had been I had to create this new identity of success for myself, which was about being a successful entrepreneur and being an author and being a podcaster and all of those things. And then I was like, well, when does this game ever end? And I don't actually feel like I've arrived or achieved anything. And it was almost like everything got taken away and I was completely exposed. And I was like, well, if I'm not a business person, who am I? If I'm not a podcaster, who am I? So I pulled down my podcast. I deleted the whole thing. I pulled down all the meditation book. It's not available anywhere anymore. I basically just stopped doing everything. And I was like, the only thing I need to focus on right now, because it was kind of like everything had become too big and I was starting to feel a bit burnt out, and I'd kind of lost the essence of what I was doing, which was about, being happier and helping other people do that. And all of the bright, shiny stuff and the things that we think we need to do had kind of come in and taken over. And I'm like, well, who am I? I need to feel like a success with nothing. If I can't feel like a success with nothing, I'm never going to feel like a success. And so now this stuff's all come back in, and I wasn't actually sure that this book, my second book, It Is Possible, was even going to get printed. I was like, maybe the whole purpose of that book was to teach me. That was the purpose of me writing that book. You know, like I just gave myself permission to say, well, maybe that's achieved its success. And it was only really about a month ago where I was like, you know, actually that book does need to be published. And I'd relaunched my podcast. But it's just, I just don't care. Like I care deeply, but I don't
I love
care.
it.
I don't care at all, because I'm like, that stuff doesn't matter. It's like who we are that counts, you know, how we're showing up that counts. And I was like, anything that I don't want to do in my business, I literally am not doing it anymore. So even with my podcast, and you might be able to relate to this. So, you know, I'd do the podcast, do the show notes, I'd edit it. I would have to make graphics for it, create little like sound bites for it, go on my website. And all of these steps in the process, like there's about 22 steps in the process, maybe not quite that many. And either I had to do them or I had to give them to someone else to do, which cost money, which is not about the money as such, but I still had to manage that process. And I'm like, I don't care. Like most people will find a podcast through the podcasting platform, right? So all I need to do is upload it onto that podcasting platform. I don't care about the SEO on my website, because really most people who find this podcast find it through a recommendation of a friend or through random searching through the podcasting platform itself, not through some Google search. So I just gave myself permission, like truly gave myself permission to not do anything I did not want to do anymore.
How cool.
It was amazing. And even like with my podcast, I was like, yeah, no, it does need to go back out, because people were saying, where's your podcast? And I'm like, it does matter. What I'm doing here does matter. Like, and it's not a numbers game, and it had never been a numbers game, but you can't help but let the numbers game kind of come in. You just can't help it, right?
Right.
And I don't care. And then I was like, I run my online program through Kajabi. And then I'm like, oh, Kajabi, you can host a podcast through Kajabi now, right? I'm like, why would I create another thing that I've got to like do? So all the stats and stuff, and it all in beta. And I'm like, well, I don't actually care, because I just want my podcast to be able to be like fed out to all the podcasting platforms, and I'm already utilizing this platform. I'll just use that. So it was like everything about my thinking changed. It's been amazing. So now this book, and I'm like, oh, okay. So with a book, they say like 95% of a book is about marketing, right? And I'm like, gosh, it's taken me 3 years. And I thought, you know what I've done? Seriously, I'm like, I have done my bit. I've made the book. I've recorded the audio. I've done my bit. I've now handed it literally over to the Universal Marketing and Public Relations Department. I'm happy to take whatever action is required, but I'm not thinking about it.
Love it. Love it.
It's amazing. It's quite liberating, actually.
There's so many things in what you've just said, that like so many different directions that we could go in with this conversation, because we used to work in a gym. We had a gym in Sydney, and we had people around we had kind of like busy professionals who were real career driven, right? But they would get to that sort of age, you know, 40s, mid 40s, where they're just like, I'm sick of my job. I'm going to quit. And like, this wasn't like everyone was doing it, but those people that did it, and they're like, I have no idea what I'm going to do next. And I'm like, that's where the magic happens, when you give yourself that opportunity. And I'm a real fan of that. And I can actually really relate to what you're saying, because I feel like I'm in a similar place at the moment, where I feel like I just need to step away from a whole bunch of stuff that I've been doing and see what happens. There's a little bit of fear going on for me, so I haven't quite done it yet, but it's like, it's close. The podcast is one thing I'm going to keep. And it's interesting because like you said, and I don't know, you mentioned sort of numbers and that sort of thing. And when I started this podcast, it was like, well, I'm just going to see what happens, right? There's nothing, not driven by numbers, not driven by marketing, none of those things. And when people say, are you making any money from it? I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore. I only want to do it because I love doing it. And why can't we do things because we love doing them? And like, perhaps it is serving purpose of, that part of your path. Like you said, you don't even know if you want to publish the book, but it's part of the journey of getting to where you are right now. So I love all of that stuff. I think it's really fascinating, and so great to hear so many things right off the bat.
It's too, like, even when you said that, because what I realized last year was I was just doing too many things. And like, I kind of, I think we can probably relate, anybody who's kind of doing stuff in their life is probably doing too many things, because that's we're the people that are doing stuff. And it was like I was looking at everything, and my kids were getting a little bit older. So my son was in year 8 and my daughter was going into year 7. And parenting actually really changes. Everyone had said this, and I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I get it now. Like, they just need you in a different way. And you have to be present in a different way. Like, it's when they're little, you're busy, right? Unless, like you're homeschooling. But when it's busy. But when they're older, it's not quite so hands-on, but it's much more presence that's required. And you can't be busy in your head all the time. You've got to just, and you've got to be available when they need you, which could be, you don't know when, right? But so I was kind of looking at everything in front of me, and it was almost too overwhelming to work out what to keep and what to go and all the rest of it. And it was like I had to just clear the decks completely and go, well, what remains? What remains? And rather than trying to work out what to keep and stuff, it was like, if everything's gone, what remains? Like, what comes back in? And it was, I think, a question that really helped me with that, and may sort of help and serve you here. Why am I doing what I am doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, why am I doing it? I'm doing it because I genuinely want to help people. Like, I really do believe I'm here to be of service. I think we all are, right? I genuinely want to help people, and I want to do work that I love, right? I want to enjoy what I'm doing. And also, I have a family to support. I'm a single parent. Like, I have to make money. Like, I have to make money. This is not just a hobby or a luxury or me just getting to do nice things and feeling good. Actually, there needs to be financial component to that. And that really helped me. So when I was actually like, it was like I'd honestly been completely stripped back, bare, exposed. And it was probably one of the most challenging experiences I've ever gone through. And I've gone through a few. But it was like, okay, well, you never sent anything you can't handle, right? So I'm obviously ready for this, and this is what I need to kind of work through to get to that next level. I accepted that. But it really helped me with my decision-making, going, okay, is it helpful to people? Or is it ego-driven? Like, is this about my ego wanting to be, look at me, here I am, so successful, whatever. Do I love doing it? And that's when I was like, if I don't like doing it, I'm not doing it. And so I closed down my Facebook group, and I'm like, I can't really be bothered doing Facebook ads and getting people to sign up for a webinar. I'm just going to run training straight into my page. I'm like, I don't have to do all those other 15 steps. I'm already connected with my next paying client. I don't need to make 15 hoops for people to jump through. That doesn't align with my values anyway. So it was just enabled me to kind of go, I don't actually really care what the rules are. I don't care what people are saying that we need to be doing. I don't have to do it that way. I can actually do it truly my own way, whatever that is. And I think if we can all do that a lot more, we actually then stepping into that universal magnetism magical zone, because we're following our intuition, we're following those nudges, we're following the guidance, we're doing what feels right for us.
Yeah.
Without, it has to be this way, it has to be that way, it has to just like, who's making up
that up?
Who's making up these rules?
Yeah.
And even challenging myself a little bit with that today, because I was like, oh yeah, this story that I've been buying into, that 90% of a book is the marketing. And I'm like, hang on a minute, Fiona, you don't have to believe that. That's what everybody else is telling you, the experience. But how about if it doesn't have to be like that? How about if it can just be really easy, and I can just say, hey, universe, I'll do whatever you tell me to do, but, you're in charge of the marketing here. Do you know what I mean?
Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I totally agree.
Why am I buying into this narrative that this is hard?
Yeah, yeah, it's all made
I'm
up.
just buying into that, right?
Yeah, totally, totally. I've actually noticed that with on a different thing, but with the homeschooling with the kids, right?
Yeah.
I've realized how much I'm still being kind of directed by what I think school should be. And it's like, hang on a minute, let's try and same thing. Let's try and like, who says? Like, I should know intuitively what my children need. I can tell when they're enjoying something or they're not, right? But we still want to follow the rules so much of the time. I wonder how much of that is like safety, from that old sort of, if you don't follow the rules and do what other people are saying, you might get kicked out of the tribe sort of thing. Like, how much of it is that, do you reckon?
I don't know. I think it's what we decide we want to believe.
Mm.
And
Well,
we
it's
will
how we kind of
find,
figure out where we fit in the world, isn't it?
that's right. And then we
Mm.
find things to support that belief.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, yeah, that was, yeah, I think, we just need to be constantly challenging ourselves. Why do I think this? Or that is a thought, but like, let me challenge that.
Yeah.
Why do I believe that has to be the way? Could there be another way?
Mm.
And who cares if it's the wrong way? We're not going to find out if it's the wrong way until we find out it's the wrong way, in which way it's the right way, because then we know it's not the right way to go. So there's no judgment kind of on that either.
Yeah. And you think we spend a whole bunch of time kind of processing all of this and trying to figure it all out. And then you're like, oh my God, and another 12 months has just passed by.
How
And
about I
I've
just
just
had to
been
go? Yeah, how about I just had to go and see what happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think we really do need to get out of our heads. I know there was I do obviously coaching, and I developed this program during COVID, got completely smashed during COVID, had to pivot. And I was like, what is the best thing I can possibly, like, this is literally the question I asked. What is the best thing I can create right now that is going to help the most amount of people, that is going to help me make the most amount of money, right? That was what I asked. And I created this 6-week program. It's a phenomenal program. It's made like over $250,000.
Wow.
You had over 100 people go through it, like in 3 years. Like, it's truly like one of those things you just go, how did that even happen? And it happened because I asked a question and then I took the action. I didn't sit there and go, who am I to be doing this, blah, 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 because I didn't have that false luxury, because it was COVID and I'd been smashed and I needed to pivot my business. So it was like I kind of got forced into my hand got forced to have to just take action without thinking. I'd been thinking about doing an online program for about 8 years.
Right.
Just happened, right? And then now it's going. And I really think we need to just, one of the things, I had somebody in the very first intake of this program, and we were talking about, and there was something that was going on, and we basically broke down that she had spent 600 hours thinking about something. And it cost her marriage, because
Wow.
it created so much conflict.
Tension and
But the solution to that was already there, but there was too much fear to actually take that step forward. And so 600 hours of her life had been spent thinking about something. And if you think about that, like, you just said then, another 12 months, but it's not just 12 months. It's the hours and days and weeks and months of thinking about something, feeling bad about doing something, rather than just having a go.
Yeah. And also, like, when you're so deep in that, you're not present, right? You're not living, really. You're living in just in your thoughts. So tell me, you're a mindset coach, right? So it's interesting because you say mindset coach, but then you say don't spend too much time in your thinking about things. So, but you kind of have to be in your head if it's mindset, don't you?
Well, the idea of mindset is about understanding the way you think.
Yeah.
And challenging the way you think. So becoming aware of, just because you think a thing does not make it real.
Yes.
Just because you have a thought doesn't mean you have to engage with that thought. But it's about understanding our thoughts literally create our reality. So our thoughts create the way we think about something, or what we believe, causes us to feel a certain way. So it taps into an emotion, creates an emotional state within us that then causes us to act or not act in a particular way. So if we want to change anything in our life, if we want to create anything in our life, we need to understand the way we think, how we think, our belief system, whatever, so that we can change it to create a better serving way of thinking to create the outcomes that we want to have in our life. So we need to be aware of our mindset, the way we think, to create our change in our lives. And what it is not about being in your head. It's about becoming aware of the way you think and what you think and how it makes you feel, so that you can create new ways of thinking. It's called this neuroplasticity. Rewiring our brain's neural pathways. There's a lot of scientific evidence to support this. Of course, metaphysically, spiritually, this is stuff that has been talked about since the beginning of human existence, right? But the science is now catching up with this. But this is actually the way it is. And this is why practices like meditation are so powerful, because they help us become aware of the way we think. And we can separate, if you will, in a way, ourselves from our thoughts are not us. Our thoughts are just a thought. It's a belief system that creates a way of thinking. So as a mindset coach, and I study metaphysics as well, but as a mindset coach, my job literally is to challenge the way you think about something.
Okay.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
So you're telling me that it's going to take, 90% of the time to market your book. Okay, Nadine, where did you get that idea from? What would be a more empowering way to think about that?
Yeah.
So you can start to become aware until you, without self-awareness, nothing can change. And we believe things to be true. Like, so the way I see the world is the way I see the world. The way you see the world is the way you see the world. We could be both looking at the same thing and have a completely different relationship with that. Yeah. That thing is what that thing is, right? But we give it meaning based on the way our belief system is structured. And we can change that. We have the ability to change that with our conscious awareness in the present moment.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. I'm totally down with all that. I want to know, I don't know what metaphysics is. Like, I kind of have a bit of an inkling, but did you say you study metaphysics? Okay. So what does that look like? What does that mean?
Like metaphysics, in a way, if you will, it's a branch of philosophy. It's a way of understanding the world and the human experience.
Okay.
So it's like, if you look at any of the great philosophers, the Stoics, they're metaphysicians. The Bible is metaphysics. It's basically, this is how, when we go beyond the limited thinking of the way our mind works, we step into a high level of consciousness that's accessing metaphysical. They call it quantum physics, like beyond the way we think.
Okay.
So basically, so that kind of means that I can become aware of myself as something more than just the way I think.
Right. Okay.
It's a difficult concept to get your head around, because we are in our heads. We live in our heads, right? We think the way we think the way we see the world is the way it is. But it's the illusion of the way we're seeing things that we're experiencing. Yeah. Based on our program.
Yeah. Of course. It's pretty deep stuff, isn't it?
It's so deep. But honestly, when you're, look, I think I'm merely scratching the surface of this understanding.
Yeah.
And I think the more, it's like anything, the more you learn about something, the more ignorant you realize you really are.
Yeah.
That little bit of knowledge can be dangerous.
Yeah. And also you realize how, like, it takes you away from like all of those thoughts that we're just going through every day, and you go, whoa.
Yeah. Now, how is this
big? This is much bigger than just me.
Yeah. And like the way we experience the world, like, so, if I'm a person who doesn't believe that I've got good health, I'm always sick and I'm always got stuff going on. I'll always be sick and I'll always have stuff going on.
Yeah.
If I start to change that and go, I have perfect health, I'm a person who looks after themselves, takes good care of their body, I'm going to start having that as more of an experience. Likewise, if I'm always broke and I've got no money and life is really miserable and bleak and stuff, that's going to be what I experience. But if I start to shift the way I think about that, I live in an abundant universe, everything is always working out for me, I always have brilliant ideas, I know how to make money, that's going to start to become your reality. So the the think, the way we talk, the way we feel, metaphysically creates an experience for us. You know, we talk about universal laws, there's universal law of attraction. We can argue with these things, but that doesn't make them not real. We can say, oh, I don't believe in it, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Love it. So where did you, let's go back, right, to this story, because I hazard a guess that you've come to this place where this is something that you're scratching the surface of over a period of time. And it's like, well, we're forever learning about ourselves, right? You've had a big life experience, which that's what I'm going to ask you about next, because it's obviously had a huge impact on your journey to here. So do you want to share about that? You know what it is.
Yeah. So
if I know what it is, you know what it is. I'm talking about.
No. And I've always been so open in sharing about this too, because it's, I don't know, I knew very early on it was important for me to share, even when I really didn't have anybody to share any of this stuff with. I just started sharing. And of course, I built like a really big community around it.
Yeah.
But basically, it was almost like one day I woke up and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, what has happened here? And how is this my life? Like, it was like I woke up one day, I'm like, and it wasn't one day, but you know, that's almost what it felt like. It was just like this massive kind of awakening where I'm like, what is going on here? Like, how the hell have I ended up here? I was in a really unhappy relationship. I was really overweight. I was unfit. I was unhealthy. I'd been unable to get work, so I was unemployed. Like, I'm university educated, and I was like, we had no money. I was drinking every day. I had 2 tiny kids. I just was like, we're renting. It was just, I'm like 37. I'm like, this is just not even close to what I thought my life would be. Like, but then what did I think my life was going to be? But it was certainly not this. And I was like, you know, it was like something within me kind of woke up, and I was like, I don't want this life. Like, I don't want this. And I think because I so genuinely wanted to understand how I'd got here and how I could change, that's when things start to, you know, ask, believe, receive, you know, that's when miracles truly start to happen. And I had this one experience where I was driving in my car. My kids were tiny. They were like 2 and 1 or 3 and 1 or something like that. I was driving the car and I looked in the rear vision mirror and I could see them both in the back of the car. It was just this experience. And then I looked in the mirror, like into the rear vision mirror, and my eyes caught my eyes, and I heard this voice say to me, literally, Fiona, you need to stop drinking and start meditating, right? And I'm like, anyway, nothing sort of happened straight away, but it was like something happened. And then I did this skydive. That's right. I'd actually been looking for work for about a year, and my partner at the time was working in construction and ridiculously long hours, and I was kind of really doing most of everything, childcare and all the rest of it. And so I wanted part-time, 3 days a week. And I'd looked for a year for work, and there was this one day where I'd put this application forward. The kids had completely lost their shit by this stage, and I'm like trying to do this application, and I hadn't heard back from anything. And it was like I put this application in and something in me said, that's it, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. These people are not even going to respond to you. Because I'd worked in HR. I knew enough to know part-time jobs, they're not very few and far between. For them to be advertised, there's probably somebody already sitting in that position anyway, but they've legally got to advertise it. Like, I understood the whole thing, and I thought, I'm just not spending one more second of my life on this nonsense. And I was like, I need to think more laterally about it. So that's when I was like, well, let's see if we can match these skill sets to self-employment. Never been a thought I'd had before. And that's kind of where my business came from, but it's had quite a lot of evolution over the years. And so then I started my own business, and then I went for this skydive. I got involved in this charity skydive thing, and I did this skydive, and I'd promised myself I wasn't going to be hungover when I did it. And of course I was so hungover. And I felt I had terrible anxiety, and I was like, I'm the worst mother ever, and I should have written the kids a letter to say I'm so sorry I died and stuff. It was awful going up and playing with this full-blown panic attack.
Oh,
Anyway, I was in the plane with these other women and also with these guys. It was just happened to be all guys who were actually doing the tandem skydives with everyone. And I was obviously attached to this guy called Mike. And I was just talking to him, and I'd only just started my business. And I realized that these guys, this was their job, right? Their job. They were contractors or whatever for this. And they literally got to jump out of planes for a living, doing what they absolutely loved. And I'm like, something again shifted in me with that. Anyway, I did this skydive. I don't even have words for it. But I got to the bottom, and it was like I landed as me. It was like I let go of some incredible fear while I did that, because I knew that I'd needed to leave my relationship, right? I knew I needed to leave. And it actually wasn't very long after that that I decided to stop drinking. And then 2 weeks later, I ended up leaving my partner. I took our 2 kids. I didn't have any money. I didn't have anywhere to go. But it was like I'd asked the universe, I said, please let me know when it's time to leave, because I don't know how I can leave this environment. Like I've got no money, I've got nowhere to go, but I just can't stay. Like this is just a not healthy relationship, not a healthy environment for anyone. And again, it was like, I just said to myself, I will know the exact second when I can leave. And I'm telling you, Nadine, I knew the exact second when I could leave. And I have never looked back. I've been homeless 3 times. I've been just trying to get this business going. Kids and I ended up moving in with my ex and his wife and their daughter during COVID, so I could pivot and homeschool the kids. Like completely, miraculous stuff. You couldn't make this stuff up. But I think that period of actually just taking 100% responsibility for my life, choosing happiness, and being willing to do whatever it took for my life to change, lit a fire within me. And I really felt with the Happiness Hunter, it was my calling. Like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. But because I'd had, like, there was just a few different things that, like, when I think back, they really stick out, like, as pivotal moments, you know?
Yeah.
So that's really kept me going through what I'm doing. And I know me sharing my story and being very vulnerable, like, I don't care. Like, I think what you think about me, I don't care. It helps people because nobody's honest about what's going on for them. They're just suffering in silence behind closed doors. And we don't need to do that. Like, we are where we are in life because of what we've chosen to believe about ourselves, and we have the ability to change that. And I personally believe that part of my job, part of my existence, is to help people know that for themselves.
Yeah, great. So the big thing, like, there was obviously a few things that happened. It wasn't just the big thing of leaving your partner, but you stopped drinking. You haven't drunk alcohol for 10 years, right?
No.
I jumped on your on that boat something a year and a half ago. No alcohol. Don't think it's ever going to revisit in my life, but and I've spoken about it with a few different guests because I feel it's so relevant. Like, I don't know if this happened for you. It sounds like you've had, like you said, you've had quite a few sort of standout experiences. But stopping alcohol for me has been a real eye-opener, because it was just like a thorn in my side. It was like I was doing all of the things, and you said, you mentioned a lot of people kind of just getting on with their lives and thinking they're happy, but they're not really. And I was doing all the things, we had a business, we had a family, I'm fit and healthy, even though I was drinking wine every night. In other people's eyes, I wasn't overweight. And so it was like, well, she drinks, but she's got it going on, so who cares? But it was like a thorn in my side. And I feel like that thorn was like the tap on the shoulder, like you might have got, with the glance in the mirror. It's like, there's something bigger out there that you need to work on. And I didn't even know this at the time. This is all in hindsight. So I stopped drinking. Gradually over time, all of these things started bubbling up from the surface, and it's like, I need to fix all this stuff. This is, these feelings and emotions and stuff from the past. And it's like, how about that? I've been using alcohol without even realizing.
It's squashing it all down, numbing the pain.
Yeah,
What we do.
didn't
That's
even
what
know
we
I
do.
was doing it because I
But
thought if I was fine, I'm just a drinker.
you know, the thing is too, like with alcohol, and you know, like this is seriously no judgment. Like if you want to drink, that's fine.
Totally.
My thing is with it, if it, you'll know if it's a problem, and if it is a problem, you don't have to put up with that problem. If it's not a problem, by all means keep doing it. But the thing is with alcohol, it completely knocks out our conscious awareness. So there is no consciousness to us when we are drinking alcohol. There just isn't, because it's like that gets cut. There's no connection anymore. So what happens when we stop drinking alcohol is that we are faced with all of the thoughts and the feelings and the shame and all of the stuff that we have not been dealing with. And it's incredibly confronting at the start, you know, and it can continue to be confronting, but that stuff exists within us anyway, and it is impacting and influencing the experience that we have in our life at a completely unconscious, subconscious level. So until we are willing to have those things exposed by dealing with them properly and not squashing them down and pretending that they're not there, they affect us even if we're not aware of it.
Totally.
So what happens is we start to move through that stuff, and it's so empowering and it's liberating. And when you're properly doing it and you're not like white knuckling it through and you're just doing your 28 days just to kind of do it, it's like you there's not the intention there, but I think that genuine intention to want to live your best life, to know who your potential is, to know who you are, alcohol just cannot be part of that. Like that's not my push on that. That's actually just the way it is. And if you really look at successful people, they don't drink, because you cannot be truly successful and be a big drinker. You can have a glass of wine or whatever here and there, but like you can't. It's not sustainable for the long term. There will be aspects of your life that are struggling with that, whether that's in your health, in your relationships, in your intuition, in your ability to take risks, whatever. Yeah,
I agree. It's been a real eye-opener, and there's like there are so many layers, right? And it doesn't like you said, you got to this place and you know everything's been going, that you've been on the journey, but then when was it, a couple of years ago that you pulled the pin on a whole bunch of stuff?
No, that was just late last year.
Just late last year, because you're still in the process of like,
correct.
Who am I?
Correct. And there was a level of humility that I needed to learn.
Okay.
Like I had to learn that. I had to learn how to be properly humble. And I don't mean that from like it's a very positive thing. Like, you know, to truly be in service to that higher consciousness, whatever, you can't have all of this other conditional stuff around it. It doesn't work.
No. Okay. Tell us about happiness. Talk to me about happiness, because I think I have an inkling that there's a lot more to happiness than first meets the eye, shall we say?
Well, personally, what I've come to discover, because the whole happiness hunter thing came about when I first gave up drinking. I joined up with a Hello Sunday Morning, and 10 years ago I used to have an avatar. Like it's a organisation that helps Australians change their relationship with alcohol.
Okay.
It was like a blog, and you had an avatar. Never had an avatar before. It was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, hovered over the keyboard, and I'm like, well, what's my avatar? And I'm like, well, what am I here for? And I'm like, happiness. I'm happy. I want to be happy. I'm so unhappy. I want to be happy. So I called my avatar Happiness. And it wasn't until probably later that year that the Happiness Hunter, there was other business names, came. And then I was able to get, no jokes, the happinnesshunter.com as a domain was available. Like you can't get .coms for anything. I could trademark it. And I'm like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. Like this is it. So it was kind of, again, all very inspired, that kind of led to something. I believe that happiness is to be found in the overcoming of obstacles and challenges in our lives, and not in the absence of them. So it's not this idea of happiness, I'm getting my own way, I'm happy. Unconditional happiness exists within us. It exists regardless of what is going on in the external world. Conditional happiness is dependent on things outside of us. I'll be happy when I get this promotion, I'll lose weight, I'll get married, I'll be happy when blah, blah, blah. Unconditional happiness, and this is a true lesson I had to learn this year, was actually when I've got nothing, I am actually the happiest, because
okay,
the only thing I have to lean on is my faith, right? There's nothing else. There's nothing of any tangible, there's nothing I can touch around. And the true lesson I got was the things that counted were my faith and my family, like my friends. Like without those things, and nothing, all that other stuff can go. Which I knew, but I kind of had to have that lesson. But yeah, so true happiness is when we grow, when we are challenged, when we are becoming more than what we are now. That's when we're happy, because we are growing, we are challenged, we are overcoming things, we are learning things about ourselves, we're developing character, we're developing strength, we're developing resilience, we're learning compassion, we're learning forgiveness. You know, that to me is what happiness is. Happiness is about becoming, that feeling of becoming, because we're never going to arrive anywhere.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to arrive. So I don't know if that kind of answers your question, but for me, I think happiness really equals connection.
Yep.
And awareness and connection with something bigger than me.
Yeah. The reason I asked you is because and I totally get where you're coming from with it. Like you can't get in, well, excuse me, you can't be truly happy just because of external stuff, right? Like money or that kind of thing. But I was listening to a podcast a little while ago, and it was about children with anxiety, which I don't know if it's particularly necessarily relevant, but they were just talking about how we have this in our society where happiness is really important. And so because, and so like people who, when they're not happy, or if they're feeling something like anxiety or experiencing anxiety, we say, what's wrong? Why aren't you happy? I just want you to be happy. And so we can think that if we're not happy, there's something wrong with us. But I feel like the happiness that you're talking about, because it's inside, it's not the same thing.
It's an intrinsic thing. So we've got intrinsic, which is about when you are intrinsic measures of success. It's about living a values-based life, for example. It creates permanent transformation. Extrinsic is more about, levels of success or whatever. But just back to your point before about, and this may be a little bit controversial. So we want other people to feel happy because we want that.
Yeah. Okay.
Your being unhappy is making me
feel uncomfortable.
So you sort yourself out so I can feel better. Whereas when we are genuinely happy, we can feel great compassion and empathy for that person and want for them to have what we have, which is a feeling of peace. So for me, like really the ultimate measure for success for me is feeling a sense of inner peace. It's not about being perfect. It's not about getting everything right. It's about feeling that I am doing my best. I'm having a crack. I'm genuinely trying with great intention to live my best life, to be a good, decent human being, to support my fellow human beings, to be a good example, all of those things. Even if I get it wrong, but my intention has been right, I'm still getting it right.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that's how we learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we do need to be very mindful of the fact that the only thing that we can control is ourselves, and the only thing that we really have any agency over is ourselves. And if we have a problem with somebody else not being happy or whatever, that's our problem. And if we can just love them and meet them where they're at, they're going to feel better. But we don't need them to feel better for us to feel better.
Yes.
That makes sense.
So I've come across this idea recently, and I've read it, and it's kind of only just really sinking in, like about being a mirror. So if someone behaves in a certain way, that it's a mirror. And initially I thought I'm seeing in them what I don't like about myself. But now I see that it's a mirror. It's like it's reflecting back at me what I need to work on because of my reaction, my response. It's not like, well, they're being an asshole. Maybe that means I'm an asshole because I think they're an asshole. No, it's not that. It's like, why am I responding in that way? That's the reflection back. Is
so what you want to look at with that, and this is the work I do with people, right? This is that's mindset work. That's exactly what we're talking about. Okay, it's about aware. Okay, well, I'm seeing something, I'm thinking something, I'm feeling something. What is going on? So with the world is our mirror. We see the world through the lens we see the world, and that's what that means. So the way I'm interpreting you is what's been mirrored back to me. Okay, so I'm seeing in you what I am.
Yeah.
What I think or what I believe.
Yeah.
Now, what happens? Somebody can be behaving in an incredibly unreasonable, whatever way, and we can look at that. As long as we're not reacting to that, it's not ours. But as soon as you get hit with it, and like, I'll give you a really powerful exercise you can do with that, Nadine.
Okay.
Like what you can do, you see someone and you just think, what the? That person is just ridiculous. I'm feeling so angry, or that's a ridiculous thing that they're saying, or whatever. They're a hypocrite. They're not doing what they say they're going to be doing. It's very easy for us to point the finger at blame. Like we're so conditioned to do that. It takes a lot of courage to be able to say, well, hang on a minute. What is this showing about myself? This is a toxic environment. Okay. If this is a toxic environment and I'm in it, I am part of this toxic environment. How and where am I behaving in a toxic way? What am I doing to contribute to this toxic environment or that toxic conversation? Not looking at them or they're toxic. If I'm seeing them toxic and now I'm here, I am toxic. But being able to do that. But one of the things you can do is write on a piece of paper. I learned this process. It was so powerful, and I teach it all the time now. You got a problem with me, right? You write, Fiona is an absolute blah, blah, blah. You just let that all come out in your journal, right? Don't hold back what you think, what you feel, how it's making you feel towards me, what it's showing you, she is this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. Honestly, just let it all come out because I'm a gift to you, right? Showing you something about yourself. If you have the courage to properly own it, right? But you've got it's just between you and you. You can't get this is what my belief is. You can't get in any trouble universally when you're properly honest like that, whether you're properly honest to me in the right environment or to your journal. Okay. You can't get in trouble. You're in a bubble because that exists within you anyway. And the only way you're going to be able to address it is to expose it, to show it to the light. So you write all of those things down, the vomit onto the page, right?
Yep.
And then you get your pen and you cross out my name and you write Nadine.
Ooh.
And then you get to look at it and there will be something that jumps out to you about your own behavior.
Right.
And then you can get to work on that. And then what happens as you start to move through this, I can still be doing that behavior that is really bad. But you are now looking at it and relating to it in a different way. You have compassion for me because you can see what I'm doing, but it doesn't affect you anymore because you've corrected it within yourself. And you have compassion because you can see how easy it is to be blind to those traits because you hadn't seen them in yourself until I pointed them out to you.
Right.
So it completely shifts your relationships with everyone. You appreciate people for showing you that. You've got gratitude towards them. You can forgive yourself. You can forgive me. That is how we change the world, by changing ourselves. But the only way we can see what's going on within ourselves is to have it mirrored back in the world around us.
Right. Yeah.
And then eventually but we all do, and it never ends. But that's basically what this work is actually that I need other people to show me who I am.
Yeah.
Without blaming them, I'm going to see stuff in them that is showing me something about me. If I have the courage to accept that and to take ownership of that, then I can change it. And then that is going to change the relationship I have with them. And then they're going to see me differently. And then they're going to maybe want to change their behavior. You know, we talk about world peace. It starts with me and you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how we create world peace. Doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. How do I want to show up? I want to show up peacefully. I want to be a forgiving person. I want to be kind. I want to be compassionate to myself, to the world around me.
Yeah, I
So
love
yes,
that.
the world is your mirror, but you need to work on it when you're affected. So when you're triggered, when you have a reaction, it's yours. You need to work on it. They are just a highlighter. It doesn't mean they're doing the right or the wrong thing, by the way. It's not about them. It's about how you've been affected by what you're seeing.
Yeah. Great. I love that. What a good tip. What are your who are your biggest influences? Do you follow anyone or like love the work of a great teacher? Like, are you influenced by anyone in particular? Or
so there's like lots of people who I've been really influenced by. But I think if you look at all of the great teachers, they telling you the exact same
thing. Yep. Yep.
It's very simple, the messages.
Yep.
Be accepting, be forgiving, be loving, be caring, be kind.
Yep.
Be compassionate. Like, just care about yourself and care about other people. Like, if you look at any teaching from anyone. But I think one thing that was very unexpected for me, like really unexpected, was my faith, like kind of growing over this time, and my belief in Jesus and God. Like, it was just incredibly unexpected for me. Like, I just expect it. But if you look at, I mean, beyond the rhetoric of the Bible or anything that you want to say, or organized religion or anything like that, if you will resonate, the people that resonate with you are the people that are speaking the truth. And you can separate, you can actually start to distinguish and separate. And there's a lot of people that are teaching stuff that they don't understand.
Oh, do you want to expand on that?
No, well, it's a lot of, no, I just think it's just, I think for all of us is really, we have to find our own way with that. And there are signposts and guides and mentors everywhere.
Yeah.
And I could tell you what worked for me, but that might not be who you need.
Yes.
You've got to start you've got to start your journey. You've got to start your exploration of that, and you just start anywhere. And I think, you know, as we were saying before, I think that's part of what I need to do. Is that I'm just a person, and this was really liberating for me, was just going, I'm just a person sharing my experience. I don't have to be a guru. I don't have to be the best in the world. I don't have to be anything. I just got to show up and just be me. And whoever resonates with that, whoever's meant to find that, will find that.
Yeah.
And if I'm sort of putting these artificial measures around what that needs to look like, then that's when I started to go felt I was going a bit off track. And that's when everything had to go. And I was like, well, am I doing the right thing? Or like, what's the disconnect? And I think for me was actually, I stopped just working from my heart and got a bit stuck with all of the other stuff around it. And I think that doesn't resonate in quite the same way. So I think, in answer to your question, our work is to find our own path. But as Rumi says, as we begin to walk on the way appears.
I love it. I love that. That's beautiful. And we're coming pretty close to the end of our conversation, or the hour anyway. And that seems like a very nice way to bring this to a close, even though the road is open. So Fiona, right now, the universe is selling your book?
The universe will be selling my book, or marketing, or letting people know about my book.
There'll be marketing. Okay.
Yep. I will do what is required, but I'm not thinking about what I have to do.
Okay, cool. I love that.
Does it make sense?
Yep. And are you still running your program, the 6-week program?
Yep. So that's the steps for change. So I normally do 3 or 4 intakes of that a year. And then in between, I'll just do coaching, I'll do speaking and facilitation, run workshops and that sort of thing. But this is the program, I still run that. It's still going with that. I'll probably go with that forever, I reckon. It's a really good program.
Cool. I'd love to share some information about you in the notes. So if there's anything that you would like to direct people to, your Facebook group, your book,
There's probably a really good place for people to start
website.
with the podcast, with the Happiness
Okay.
podcast. It's a great way
Yep.
to kind of be introduced. You can come and find, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I post lots of stuff on my personal profile on Facebook. People are welcome to come and find me there. And then the book, It Is Possible, Letting Go of Who You Think You Are to Create the Life of Your Dreams, will be available as an audiobook and also through all of the online publishing platforms, probably I'd say in the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Fantastic. Wonderful. This is perfect timing then, because we called Life, Health and Universe, and the universe is helping with marketing. And your book's about to come out. It could be very well aligned.
This is how it works, right?
Yeah.
It's easy, it flows, there's no effort involved, and you just got to say thank you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much for asking me to come on your show, Nadine.
No worries.
I think you put a call out and I put a call out. You know what I mean? It was just easy, happy to take the action, but not thinking about it.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. Like I said to you when we were organizing our time, I've had my eye on you for a while as a guest, and there you were.
Yeah, and I'd love to I mean, even offline, have a conversation about the fasting and the water fasting and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'd be very keen to hear more about that.
Oh.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with us today. It's been insightful, and yeah.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bye.